So I am Lisa Doyle, and I am with the Doyle team here. We are real estate agents, and we oftentimes will, we come across clients who have questions about feng shui. So we have a very special guest joining us today, Nancy. So what we're going to do, Nancy, is we're going to introduce Nancy real quick. We'll introduce ourselves, Kim and I.
So I'm Kim Winters. I'm a real estate agent with the Doyle team.
Sorry about that technical issue. And then Nancy, introduce yourself.
I'm Nancy Dadami, and I'm a Feng Shui master and an artist.
Nice. Well, we're so excited to have you. Over the years, Kim and I were chatting, we always have clients who ask about Feng Shui as a practice. Many families use the Feng Shui principles, buying homes, and, it matters to them. So we wanted you to share, a little bit about what exactly is Feng Shui and how they can learn to, take the principles that can help them.
Okay, I'd be happy to. So my Feng Shui journey began a long time ago, and I had some personal problems that I couldn't get solved any other way. So I called in a Feng Shui person, and they moved some things in my home, and I was amazed at the shift in my personality, my lifestyle. And so I started studying everything I could. And in 2007, I graduated from the Feng Shui Master's Training Program in San Francisco. It was a 3-year program, and I've been working with Feng Shui Masters ever since to keep my education honed. And I'll just tell you one quick story. I was a vice principal at the time, and people would come to my door and they would just barge in and start talking to me. And it was really disruptive and, hard and then they'd leave and I'd be sort of scattered. So I moved my desk and did one other thing. And then people would come to the door and they'd say, "Excuse me, do you have a minute?" And I would kind of look around like, are you talking to me?
Oh, I don't have a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, wow, it was like night and day how I was treated and the respect that showed up. And so that was when I'm going, man, this stuff really works. And that's when I decided I needed to learn more.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we were talking before, we're going to have you share a lot about your background and kind of the ideas of Feng Shui. And so Feng Shui, the definition of, isn't it kind of the learning of the flow of energy? Is that the basic?
Yes.
idea?
So it's really about creating flow of energy through your space. And what's interesting is energy, you can't really see it, you feel it, and it shows up in the way your space is organized, and that's with your furniture or the floor plan, the layout of how your house is. And you can move the energy by moving your furniture, using color, lighting, mirrors. There's all kinds of ways that you can help to move the energy so that the goal is to have it circulate through the whole home so that all areas of your life are empowered. Yeah. Because if one area is kind of weak, like let's just say you have a whole bunch of clutter in an area that's represented by your wealth, you're going to be struggling with money.
Yeah.
Or feeling that you have an abundant life.
Yeah, because, like we were chatting before, Feng Shui is energy flow, and people can utilize that with the idea of their homes, right? So when a person comes into their home, they're not going to necessarily be thinking, but it's how they feel when they're there, right?
Correct,
so how the homeowner feels when they live there. And, we work with a lot of buyers who use the philosophy of Feng Shui on what house to choose or not to choose,
Mm-hmm.
So it's good for sellers to understand, a lot of our clients to understand, and plus buyers too,
Yeah,
and just be peaceful.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
You just live a more peaceful life, even if you're just trying to create more energy and good feelings in your current home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah.
So,
So you want to think about the flow. This is the way I describe it to people that makes it easier to understand. It's like a river. It's like the energy is flowing in a river. And if a tree falls across the river, the water backs up, which means the energy backs up. So if you have a sofa in the wrong place and it blocks the flow of energy, there's going to be an area where just a trickle of energy gets to. Or you might have like a boulder in one area. So the banks and the rocks in the river guide the flow of the water, just like the walls and the furniture in your home guide the flow of the energy. So
now we've always known, just like the appeal of the visual appeal, that say clutter is not good for us, but it's more than just the fact of how it looks, right? It's the whole, like you said, the clutter is the energy flow, or blocks the energy of,
right.
our
and
wellness.
it also is a reflection of what's going on inside of us. So if we have a lot of clutter in our space, we probably have a hard time focusing. Our internal focus is harder. We maybe feel overwhelmed. We may feel scattered, and it's reflected in our environment.
Yeah, very cool. So I know you're going to be sharing with us some slides about Feng Shui, and kind of like one of the things that I loved what you said earlier when we were chatting this week about pitfalls, right? There are some pitfalls about Feng Shui, like a space, maybe it doesn't work for you, but tell the viewers about the fact that there are remedies, right?
Right. So there's a remedy for everything. That's what I learned, and that's what I love about this, because, for example, if you have you're living in a house and the door doesn't face the street, there is a remedy for that. Or if your stairs are in a place that causes a problem, there's a remedy for that. So yeah, there's a remedy for everything. It's just that when you're picking a house, you want to pick one that you don't have to fix too much up.
Exactly. Yeah, pick one that suits your needs more.
Exactly.
It's kind of like someone who says, well, I love this house, but I really need a fourth bedroom. Maybe I should add one. Why don't you find maybe a fourth bedroom that works better, kind of suiting? But we've got a question. So you guys, of course, anyone has any questions, type it in the question bar. So Lindsay Mullen has a question. She says she's an elementary school teacher. I hope you don't mind that we jump in with questions. We're just going to.
That's fine. That's fine.
And she said, I love this question. So I wanted to ask you right away. Do you think that the classroom setup could help the students with like anxiety, behavior issues, help them to learn more? Would that be a helpful thing for her too?
Absolutely, because she heard that I was in the school system. And what I did when I became a principal is I used Feng Shui principles in the school that I was at.
Yeah.
And the teachers that wanted to embrace it had students, they had less classroom management problems. The students were more focused. The teachers that didn't embrace it had a lot of behavior problems.
Interesting.
And yeah, I've seen it work. It really does. And I did a Feng Shui consultation at a school, and I did the whole school, and I could just walk into a classroom and tell the principal which teachers had classroom management problems with them, nobody there, because of the way the classroom is set up. So yeah, and there's just a few changes they have to make, and it makes their life so much easier.
So it would be wise, I would guess, then, for a teacher who's getting ready to, maybe return to school in the fall. Here, they haven't been to school for a year or more. Most of them.
Right.
I would think to have a little consult with you before they even start to organize their classrooms, just with some tips with how to face things. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I worked at a school too, where a teacher, it was before school started, and she started crying. She said, I can't even stand coming into this room. I don't want to come back.
Wow.
And I said to her, well, try this and try this. And she had the best year she'd ever had.
Wow.
So yeah, the way that the room is set up makes a huge difference.
So Lindsay, hopefully that helped to answer her question. Yeah. She can get a little more insight from you on, what would you want to do with the kids' directions and how to set things up so that they feel like they're able to focus and learn more,
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I jump into the slides?
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. And then if you get questions, you can, this is casual, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'll jump in. And anyone else, as you're watching, as you know, we're live right now. So anyone that has a question about anything, just jump right in with the comments, and I'll ask it as we go.
Okay, so What is Feng Shui and why is it important? I feel like we kind of talked about that already a little bit, but it's about the creating flow. And when things are flowing, all areas of our life are working really well. When things aren't flowing, then that's when we start to notice problems in our relationships, maybe with our health, with our family, maybe even our career. Um, so when you first look at your space, I call these the fabulous four. What I would ask you to do is to look for beauty. Where do you have beauty in your space? And beauty is like the colors that you have, the art that you have on the wall, or sculptures, or whatever kinds of things like that you might have. It has to do with plants and fresh flowers, things that bring beauty for you. Some people may have crystals and, you know, lots of other kinds of things, but beauty helps the energy move. So it helps create flow in your space. And it's really important. And obviously beauty may be different for everyone, but I just want to say, for example, if you have a house plant, it needs to be really healthy. If it's not healthy, then it is draining to you rather than helping the energy flow. It's just kind of like sucking it, like a boulder in the river.
Yeah, like having dead things. Yeah.
That's same with like dry, like I know we touched on that when we were chatting, like people think sometimes like to dress up their house with fake plants or dried flowers. And
yeah,
you mentioned that live things, healthy live things are definitely the way to go.
Right. Healthy live things are what raise the energy, or the chi as we call it, in a space. So if you have dead things in there, what you've brought in is dead energy. So dried flower arrangements, dried wreaths on the front door, all that stuff's got to go. If you have artificial plants, like say a silk tree or something, it's okay if it looks real. If it looks real and you look at it and you can't tell if it's real or not, then it's okay. But if it doesn't, then it's distracting from the flow.
Yeah. If it screams plastic, you know.
Yeah, plastic is never going to look real.
I know I've had times where I've had to touch them to see if it was actually real. So that you're,
right, those are the good ones. Yeah, those are the good ones.
Yeah. Awesome.
So the next thing is clutter. And, you know, it's a common thing. We all have, you know, sometimes we stack up the mail or whatever it is. But clutter is like the rocks in the river or the log across. And depending on what area of your home is represented, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that is where what part of your life you're going to be having problems in. Mm-hmm. So I have seen it everywhere. You know, I mean, I've seen all kinds of things where clutter is an issue. And the problem with clutter is after 3 weeks, we don't even see it anymore. So we may come in and not really notice it. And some people will just take up one of their bedrooms and just put everything in there they don't want, thinking that the rest of the house is cool. Well, the rest of the house is good, but whatever area of their life that is represented will be stagnant. And will be an area that they will be struggling with, whether it's their area of their children, the area of their health, you know, whatever. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So, you know, and I know it can be overwhelming. So I suggest that you just start with something small. So clutter involves, and this is the crazy part, not just like in the room when you see it, but it's like what's going on in your dresser, what's going on in your closets, what's going on in your kitchen cabinets, what's going on in your computer, every part of your life. Because if you're carrying things that you don't really need and you don't love, they're just taking up space.
Yeah, like clothing. I remember, and this may not, or maybe it is, along with the lines of like old clothing that you never wear anymore. You know, you'd get rid of all that and you kind of like all of a sudden new things, people give you gifts of clothing that are prettier and nicer or whatever. It's kind of the interesting dynamic. At least I've noticed that. Yeah.
So yes, when you move things out, you open up space for something new to come. So for example, if you clean out your dresser, I know this might be a stretch for some, but if you clean out your dresser, it opens up opportunities for you. You may get a new job opportunity. You may meet somebody that is going to become a really good friend of yours. And because you've let go of things that are sort of tying you down.
Yeah. Yeah. You get kind of stuck, for lack of a better word, right?
I think your attitude changes too, which probably attracts more positive energy back, I would imagine, because you feel better.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also remember what I said earlier, if you have clutter, then you also have some trouble focusing, you might feel scattered, and all of that ripples out into your whole life, how you are in the world, how you are in your relationships, how you are with your money, all of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
And the third thing is broken things. So, or something like, well, I got this pair of pants, I just need to get them hemmed, so I'm keeping them over here. Or this lamp needs to be fixed, but I really like it and I'm going to use it. Broken things are actually worse than clutter because they're very draining. So the suggestion is fix it or let it go. Because what happens is every time you see it, even if you're not conscious of it, there is a thought of, oh, there's those pants that I need to hem, or oh, that lamp, I need to get on that, which distracts from your healthy, vibrant energy because it's a little thing that's running around in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Like you punish yourself for all the things that you're not doing.
Exactly. And I want to add one thing here because I always run into this. We all have gifts that somebody gave us that we don't really like, that we keep. Maybe it's, could be anything. I'll just say a piece of art and you hang it on the wall. But every time you see it, it's the same thing that happens like with the broken things. It's like, oh man, so it's like, I would say find a way to give it a new home. Because anytime you come into a space, and even with color, say that your room is painted a color that you don't really like, and you walk in, there's a part of you that goes, and that is a draining to your personal energy, which you don't want.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So the fourth thing is furniture placement. So how do you have your living space set up? That makes a big difference. So if you think about energy flowing through the space and your furniture is set up so that the energy can flow freely through the space, that's the ideal situation. If you walk in the front door and you see the back of the sofa, right there, it's like the log across the river. The energy has to go around if it's possible. And it causes a little bit of a backup at the door. So you want to have your furniture placement in a way that creates the best flow of energy for your space.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is like we work with stager decorators often with families to help them. We bring in someone to give them advice about making their spaces. And they might be using some of the concepts that you also use. But I've had times where I've walked into a room and the decorator has set the space up. And you walk in and you think, oh my gosh, I love this. It's like it feels more peaceful when you walk in, but you can't really put a finger on why. Like I was like, I could never have created, I wouldn't necessarily have been, I wouldn't have thought of this, but I love the way it's set up. It just makes you feel, the space feels more peaceful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm a big believer that your space should rejuvenate you and refresh you and make you feel relaxed, because your home should be like a sanctuary, a place where you go that get refreshed to go back out in the world again, And so that's why these 4 principles are really important: the beauty, the clutter, the broken things, and the furniture placement, because all that add to creating that atmosphere.
And it's so interesting because showing property, and again, you can't put your finger on it. And I've said it out loud, like this house just has really good energy. Like you can feel it.
Feels good.
And it probably is how it's staged. Possibly it could also be the people that have lived there, maybe their energy. I mean, that might be a little far-fetched for some, but some just feel good. And those probably sell really quickly. That everything just and it's the energy in them.
Right. And so let me just say, well, what contributes to that energy? It is the beauty, the furniture placement, but it's also the energy of the people who live there, because you leave behind energy wherever you are. So the people that live there before you, some of their energy is there. That's why I always ask, what do you know about the predecessors? Did they leave because they got a job promotion? Did they leave because it was a divorce? Did they leave because somebody died? What is it? Because the emotions and energy of that are in the space. And
oh, sorry.
Yeah, and that can influence, and you may overlook that when you're buying it, but it's there. And that's why space clearings are so important, because you want to clear that out and put your intentions and what you want into the space so that your home is vibrant and going in the direction you want to go.
That's what you just touched on. I just was going to ask you. So a potential buyer, when they move in, or a person who's just feeling that you can help them with, if there was maybe a negative story behind the previous people, such as a divorce, or we've even seen some deaths and things, that you can come in and there's a solution for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you don't fix it, the energy of that is there. So say it was a divorce, you may start having arguments in your relationship, and it may not start right away. Sometimes it takes us a few years for the bones of the house to actually influence you. And so, or maybe if you're single, you have a really hard time getting a relationship if that's something that you want.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many, there are different people that come from different parts of the world are raised more with concepts of what you're teaching, right? There are certain, influences, and, we live in an area where there's a lot of people who talk about what you're sharing. Mm-hmm. And it's so good for those that don't understand it or have never asked questions about it to really get an understanding when someone says, the feng shui doesn't work for me, and now they'll get an idea what this means. It's the energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is good.
Okay. So it really is all about the flow. So the question I ask is, what are the 3 key spots in your home and what to look for there? So, this is a short presentation, so I can't go into everything, but the front door so the street is the river. And the front door is how the energy comes into your home, or the river comes in. So what's going on at your front door is extremely important. And the front door also represents your voice in the world. So the ideal thing is if the door faces the street, because then you're totally open to all the opportunity. You can see opportunities coming to you. You have a strong presence and voice, but you also want to look at how the approach. How does, do you have to go down the driveway? Is there a separate sidewalk? What does the porch look like? How does the landscape look in the front? Is it healthy? These are all tips for buying also. Is it healthy and selling? Do you have dead plants in there? Do you have stagnant waterfall that isn't working? That kind of thing. Wow. So what's going on at the front door really makes a difference. Mm-hmm. And the condition of the door, is it in good condition? Is the paint chipping off? Does it have scratches on it? Is it dirty? Is it partially faded from where water gone on it from rain or something like that? All of that impacts how you experience what's going on in your life. So the front door is like one of the most critical. And the thing I see the most is that people don't use their front door. A lot of us come in the garage and then come in through the kitchen or the laundry room or whatever. And so if you're not using your front door, you're not inviting the chi in. So I would say at least use your front door to go get the mail or something. If you can't do that, then open the front door and just step out on the porch and say to yourself quietly or out loud, hey, come on in. I can use your help here today. Yeah. So yeah, that is a huge tip. And back to the classroom, the front door is the door that leads into the room.
Yeah.
Okay, or the front door to a business. And if you have an office inside, then you've got also the door that goes into the office. So there's 2 doors there.
Okay.
That's so interesting.
Okay. So this the second key spot is the stove. And the stove is the generator of wealth. So you want the stove to be in operating condition. You want all the burners to work. You want everything to be clean. I know a lot of people like to put those foil things around some of their burners and stuff. You don't want that. You have to keep your stove clean, and it needs to be working. So if you have a problem with the oven, then you want to get that fixed, because this is the thing that generates money for you, or influences your abundance and prosperity. So if it's not working right, you're going to have to work a lot harder to get where you might want to go with that.
Yeah.
The other thing about the stove is that, this is a feng shui tip I'm giving, is the cook, when you're cooking food, however you're feeling goes into the food. So the belief is that you should not have your back to the door, meaning that if someone comes in the kitchen and startles you, you don't want startle to go into your food. Excuse me. So if you can be facing the door, that's ideal. If you can't, you can use a mirror behind the stove so that you can see what's going on behind you.
Nice. Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
This will make you laugh. So what if the person doesn't really cook very much and never uses the stove?
Because nobody uses it.
For those of us that are not cooks. Yeah.
Okay.
We barbecue. Yeah.
Well, I would say to turn on the burner, even if you're only going to use it to light incense.
Oh, get your the stove is the flow, so have it before.
Yeah, so you want to turn it on.
Okay.
Heat up a pot of water, something. You do want to use it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. No cobwebs on the stove.
No, none of that.
For herself, of course. Though.
Yeah. So the third.
I was asking for a friend, just so you know.
Yeah, I know. So the third key spot is the bedroom. Now the bedroom, some people don't want to have feng shui adjustments in their home, like I say, a crystal, or they don't want to put a mirror here or whatever. You can do all of the adjustments in your bedroom if you'd like. The bedroom is because it's the place where you actually spend the most time, it is the most powerful room. So mostly what happens in the bedroom is, like, when you stand in your bedroom door and you just imagine yourself standing there right now and you look into your bedroom, what do you see? Do you see a pile of books that are stacked up on the floor that you're going to read? Do you see a treadmill? Do you see a beautiful bed that's freshly made? What is it that you're looking at? That makes a big difference, because what you first see sort of sets the tone for what's going on. And in the bedroom, the best thing you could do for yourself, because I've had people that have had trouble sleeping and they have a beam over their bed. Well, that can create some trouble sleeping. So what you want to do is you want to place your bed, what they call in the command position, and that is the furthest from the door, not in direct line with the door. So, in the sort of on the opposite wall of the door. And so that when you're laying in the bed, you can see the door. That way you're aware of because what happens is when we sleep, we're sort of unconscious and we don't rest as well if we can't see what's going on at the door.
Yeah.
Not something that we're thinking about, but it's what happens to our body, because we are animals too.
Yeah.
And so, that's called the command position, and you definitely want your bed to be in the command position. And my suggestion is, because some people go, I don't want to remove my bed. My suggestion is just move it. And if you don't like it, you can always move it back.
Right.
but I've never had anybody move it back.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Is
So
it all-
let me
Oh, I'm
go
sorry.
over a few
Oh, I was just going to ask you, is it true
questions.
that you shouldn't, which would be rough for most of us, that you shouldn't have a TV in the bedroom, or is that completely
Oh,
different?
yes. No, 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 no. So thank you for asking that question, because the bedroom is for rest, relaxation, and romance, period. Get the exercise equipment out of there, get the TV out of there. Those are all distractions to rest, relaxation, and romance. That's all a bedroom's supposed to be. And I have to say, I go into a lot of people have TVs in their room, and I've seen, you know, treadmills and other things in their main bedroom as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, you will rest better if you don't have that in there.
In an office too, like now you see a lot of people with a little, in a big, especially if you have a
Yeah.
big bedroom, you might see a little office. That, I'm guessing that's a big distraction for,
Yeah.
I mean, huge.
It takes away our peace. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
Thanks
one
for that question. Yeah.
So what about a fireplace in the master bedroom?
Hmm.
You know,
It
is that
depends on, the fireplace depends on where it is in the bedroom. When we
okay?
get to the bagua, which is coming up,
Yep.
I will explain that. Just remind me and I'll explain that to you
Thank
then.
you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Other questions before I go on to the next part?
No.
Okay, so some tips for buying and selling. So after we went through the front door, the stove, and the bedroom, obviously those are things you want to make sure for buying and selling are in good shape. So if you're going to buy a place, you want the front door to be facing the street if at all possible. Okay. When I've come to a house where the door doesn't face the street, maybe it's on this other, you know, on one of the sides of the house.
Yeah.
What that says to me is it's hard for people to find you. So if you have a business, it's hard for customers to find you. It also could have to do with it. You really like to be more isolated and you're more of a introverted kind of person than somebody that's, you know, just facing the street and ready to go at it. But it also, you have to do some things to get the flow of the river to get over to the side of the house, because it's not coming down directly in, okay, to the front door. So, the front door, the stove, you just want to know, you know, is the stove, what we call that in the command position too. Can you see the door from the stove? If you can't, is there a remedy you can use with a mirror? And then the bedroom. I know that a lot of modern houses, I might get myself in trouble for saying this, have 2 doors on the master bedroom.
Yeah.
But when you have 2 doors on the master bedroom, it's like you're at the mall on Friday after Thanksgiving and it's throwing the doors open to the public. That's what having 2 doors on the master bedroom is like. So, you know, that is something that could be addressed, and you can understand what that might feel like. Those kinds of questions, instead of saying, oh, your door this, I would be asking people questions about how they're feeling, either single or in a relationship, then to tie back to the door. Because instead of just saying, oh, this means this, that I want to see if they're actually experiencing it, because we're not going to, you know, give them a remedy if there's not an issue.
Yeah, makes sense
For them. You know what I mean?
Well, I imagine some people on those double doors, you can secure one side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Okay, so the important thing is the view from the street. So some people won't even get out of the car if the place doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And I've done some videos where I've gone around and taken pictures of homes and done a presentation on how to, you know, what would you get out of the car at this place? And what's going on there tells you a lot, you know. What's going on the porch? Do they have any, you know, plants there? Do they have a couple of chairs? They have ice chests full of stuff from camping. What's going on there?
Yeah.
So most people will tidy up before when they're trying to sell their house. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like more than just curb appeal, right, Nancy?
Yeah,
It's like that. It's how the customer feels when and it may just be a subconscious feeling. You know,
exactly.
it's more than just curb
Exactly.
appeal. Yeah, they're going to be drawn or repelled. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And, you know, the right person is looking for your house just as you're looking for them to find it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, you know, it's when they meet up, it's wonderful. But okay, so the shape of the lot makes a difference. Is it like a rectangle lot? Is it an L-shaped lot? What kind of a lot is
Like
it?
a pie shape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it could be a pie-shaped lot. And when we get to the I think it's the next slide, which is the bog wall, I'll explain, because uh, there could be a piece of the life areas that's missing. Now, remember, there's a remedy for everything, so it's not critical, but it's nice to know. For example, I had a client that really wanted a relationship, and she tried and tried and tried and tried. And when I went to her house, I saw that the relationship part of her lot um, was cut off. It was, you know, it went at an angle on there, and that part of the property was missing. So the shape of your lot has something to do with it. The size of your house on the lot, if the house is bigger, and this is how they're making them nowadays, they're making the house bigger than the lot.
Or almost as big.
Yeah, so you might feel a little bit overwhelmed because the property needs to support the home. And so if it's too small, you might feel small yourself. Okay, so there's things that we can do for that. And then, is the home on a slope? Meaning that, is it lower than the street? So if the house has a slope, but it's up above the street, that's good. If it's below the street, then the flow of energy is draining, especially if it just keeps going down. It's funny, they're all relationship ones. I had a client that lived below the street, but then her lot also took a big drop, and she had a pool down at the bottom, and then it just kept going, and it was in the relationship area, and she was divorced and having a hard time finding a partner.
Yeah.
So below the street. So you want to, you know, if you could avoid buying a house that's on the down with a slope going down, you can, but there's a remedy to fix that.
Okay.
And then you just want to make sure that you want to look at the lighting. What kind of natural lighting do they have? Because you can always add lights, but there's something about natural light that is really nourishing to us. So if you could have some natural light, that'd be great. And you could also, if you needed to, add skylights if you had an area that was dark. But so let me look at my.
So there is a question too from,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, Lisa, but Kelsey Locke said, how about living in a smaller space where furniture placement is limited, like a condo or an apartment?
Condos and apartments are great. It's just that what you want to do is not have too much furniture in the space, because the principle is the same. You want the flow to go. So in one space, you might have a sofa. In another larger space, you probably could have two sofas. But in a small space, so sometimes what happens is people downsize and they move to a smaller place, and then some of their furniture is too big, creates a problem for them. So then they have to make some decisions about how they want to do that, because the other piece of that is that you feel crowded.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're feeling crowded in your space, you're going to feel that within yourself, and that's what you're going to be taken out into the world when you go out to your job or whatever you're doing. If you're a parent, you're going to feel a little bit overwhelmed, like you don't have space for yourself. If you're, you know, crowded in your space.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Any other questions? That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a super good one. I think so. We're getting lots of comments about everyone's very interested. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us. So this is
sure. So let's see if this is, this is the next one. So can you see this one? Okay. Yep. So this is the Bagua, which is the life areas of your space. So let me explain to you how you work with this.
Okay.
So the area where you see knowledge and wisdom, career and helpful people, that is where you place. So think of it as a plate, like you're holding it in your hands. So it's laying down instead of standing up like it is. And the area of career, helpful people, and knowledge and wisdom is facing you, is closest to your body.
Nancy, would this be, you're holding this here, and this is for each room in our home. Is that what you're saying?
Right, but we're going to start. We're going to start with a property. So we start with the property at the edge of the property, and this, they call it a bagua. This bagua goes over the entire property. And so if you look at it, you see that it's kind of like a tic-tac-toe where you see those lines. So you just go out into your space and you imagine or measure and and then you can figure out. So the wealth, so let's just talk about wealth for a minute. The wealth isn't just in the corner. It's 1/3 of the way over and 1/3 of the way down. And then you make that, so you make that square, that whole area is wealth.
It's not
how you work
your house.
So I had a question for you, Nancy. So you're holding this box where career is kind of like facing you right here, right? And then, so you're holding this like, as you face your front door. It's the career and mission would be right where you're standing, and then you go out from the front door. Is that right?
Right. So for example, let's say you're standing. You've opened the front door. Let's say that in this particular house, the front door was over in the knowledge area. Over here. Most front doors are not in the middle of the house. They're either on one side or the other, usually. So let's say it's here. So you're standing here and you have this thing in front of you. And then you look and you place this over your whole house.
Okay.
And then and you do the same thing where you divide it into thirds, each, like a tic-tac-toe on the floor, let's say. And that will tell you what area is what. So for example, here, you'd be entering in the area of self-knowledge or inner magnificence and your spiritual awareness. Now you'll notice that there's colors on this bagua and an element from the 5 elements. What I always caution people is sometimes the element or the color are used in the remedies to help an area, help to empower an area. But for example, if you don't like blue and you paint something blue because you think it'll make this area better, you're getting in trouble. Because remember what I said earlier, when you walk into a space, if you don't really like the color, it's better to paint something a color you like, because you'll walk in and go, oh, I love this, rather than walking in and kind of going, you know what I mean?
Makes sense.
So, anyway, so if, for example, the door was on the other side of the house, like in the right side, then you'd be walking into helpful people.
Okay.
All right.
So this this grid is really intended for your whole property.
Yeah. So this is the part why it gets confusing for people. So for example, if you had an L-shaped lot, there would be a piece missing.
Yeah.
Okay. If you had a U-shaped lot, there would be a piece missing.
Right.
But like you said, there are ways to solve our potential issue. Yeah. And there's
So then you put this also over just your home. And if it's a 2-story home, you put it on the bottom floor. And then on the top floor, the top of the stairs are like the front door. So it's possible that, especially if you had like the Mandarin duck stairs, which go up one way, you make a turn and then they come back, your front door is going to be facing a different way than the front door of the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and you may have pieces of the bagua missing from your floor plan as well. So if you're just doing your house, unless your house is a rectangle or a square, there'll be something that could be missing, or there could be an area that has a boost, so for example, in this case, if the street was down here by where you see my name and stuff, and the door was over on the side of the children, front door, then you would turn the bagua when you got to the front door, but the street, the energy from the street would be having a hard time finding the front door because it's going to have to go around the corner.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so to make this probably work, the easiest for people is to just think of your bedroom and where is the door on the wall. So this here is the wall where the door is that enters your bedroom. So it's either going to be here or it's probably going to be here, wherever your door is. So if your door is here, the rest of your bedroom's over here. If your door is here, the rest of your bedroom's over here.
Makes sense.
And now, just in your mind's eye, divide your space up by this grid, and you can see if you're entering the door in knowledge, the furthest wall from you or over here that's representing your area of wealth. The area that's the furthest away over in this corner is your relationships. So it's love relationships, but it's also relationships with people that you work with, any kind of relationship or partnership that you have. Okay. So I can't always say, well, it works best if people use this. So if your door was over here in the helpful people, then directly straight in would be your relationships, and the furthest away would be your wealth. Okay. Mm-hmm. The health is always in the middle. And when you don't have good health, nothing else matters.
Right, exactly. Which is why it's
so, yeah. And so, so for example, let's just say we're going to use this as an example. Let's say, so let me go back. So in here, the command position, if the door was here,
okay,
the command position would be over here, or from children and over. You do not want to put your bed, oops, get over there. You don't want to put your bed in direct line with the door. That's the energy's coming in. It's too much energy coming in. Okay. So the head of your bed would be over here by the fame, or it would be over by the children. You don't want it on the same wall as the door. Okay, so you got two options there. If your door was in helpful people, then you'd want to put it in fame or in family, the head of your bed.
Okay.
All right. So those are the best places for your bed placement. So let's just say you have your bed in the fame area and you've got a nightstand here and you've got a nightstand there, but over here you got a really big bedroom. So over here you put a treadmill and you got your TV on the wall over here. Okay, so what's happening is, these are the questions I might ask you. Do you find it like it's difficult for you to access your inner wisdom, to feel confident about what it is you want to do? That's because you're on a treadmill. And then over here, notice that the element in career is water. Well, a television is fire. So what happens when you mix fire and water together? It creates steam, or the water puts the fire out. So if the water's putting the fire out, then you're the way you're being seen in the world is not very good. So that's kind of how all that works. Just wanted to give you. So do you have any questions? Anybody got questions about the Bagua?
Well, I know that one thing that we wanted to share is Nancy is a Feng Shui master, and Greg and I over the years we've had people like you. Although we haven't known you long enough back when we bought our house a million years ago, right? We brought people into our home, and we've had clients do the same when they're either choosing a home and or they've bought a home. So you are available to come into people's homes and give them the best advice on their space, right? How to help them.
Absolutely.
Like you said, there are sometimes we already live in a home where we realize, okay, so there's something about my flow in my home that maybe isn't supporting me as well as I would want to, that you could then come in and make some changes, suggestions for us. How do we adjust and or overcome anything that would be maybe getting in our way,
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. Yeah.
Whether it's still there or not. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
just living peacefully. But the home sellers who are struggling, and like you said, today's market's been very heated, but there are still people that don't necessarily feel like things are going as well as they would hope that they would, or maybe they just want to prepare for the most abundant process and have a buyer connect with their home at the highest level.
Yes.
So
It's
I
so
love that.
interesting that like it's so clear, and this will be such a good video to even have prospective clients, because like just the idea that if your yard is kind of a mess, it's the first thing they see.
Yeah, there's that saying, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah. Yep. And it's like you said, it's more than that even. It's like that, it's the first impression will impact their mental, like their thought process, but it's the subconscious that we want to really attract. We want to get people feeling like, I've had people describe to me when we first sit down, they describe the type of house they want, like down to the detail. And they ultimately end up buying one that's completely the opposite of what they described, like subconsciously, because subconsciously they walked into a home that wasn't on their checklist, but that made them feel a different way and they bought it. So it's like, it's an interesting dynamic. You know, you want to appeal to people in that way.
Yes, because it is an emotional, buying is an emotional situation, and we do buy with our emotions. And so how we feel when we come into a place makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is so wonderful, Nancy. We love this. So we know you have some other slides too, if you want to share.
Yeah, so I can't remember what's next. Okay, so I had a question that somebody said, well, if I wanted to read a book, and what book would I read? This would be the book that I would suggest.
Okay.
And I just want to give you a heads up about the book, because it has all kinds of, it's got remedies in it, but it also has more information on all the things that I talked about. And the one thing I want to say about the Feng Shui is that it's easy to get confused.
Yeah.
But this book has a lot of information. This is the one I refer people to.
Wonderful.
So
thank you.
If you have questions after you look at the book and you want to ask somebody, you can ask me too. But yeah, it's a great one.
Awesome.
And I think this is my last slide.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, so if people want to work with me, these are some of the things that I do. I do residential and business consultations in person, or I do them on Zoom. Space clearings and blessings, that's to clear the energy from your space. And it's kind of good sometimes if you've had a gathering at your home to do it more than just once. So I suggest people do it every year, a space clearing, just to keep things fresh. I help with placement of furniture and art, and I'm also I create courses, and so I also teach medicine painting, which is a way that you paint with the intention to heal and gain insights. And it's like you show up at the front of the canvas and your soul shows up at the back of the canvas, and then there's a dance that happens. It's not about the painting, it's about the process.
Interesting.
I love it.
Yeah, so my email is nancy@nancydadami.com, and I'm happy to answer questions or help people with anything they may need.
And you do some life coaching as well, yes?
Yes, I do.
Nice. I love that. Well, and when we were chatting the other day to prepare for our chat with you today, I told Greg, because he and I over the years, we have, consulted with people like you. And I said to Greg, it's time for us to bring Nancy over. so definitely to our office as well. So I'm excited to do that. I think that'll be fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that will be fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Nancy, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to check real quick to see if there's any other question. And I did.
Okay, great.
We have one comment from someone that said they noticed that the same thing happens when they're in their car, right?
Yes.
How we feel. And I think, like you said, it's about all of our spaces. It's about feeling peaceful everywhere we go, our office, our home, our yard, all of it. But anyway, she said, mentioning about the car, and I think the garage too, right? It's just like we can't just throw all of our, for lack of a better word, crap in the garage, right?
Right. Well, let's just backtrack that a little bit. If you throw all of your stuff in the garage, it is a room on the bagua.
Yeah.
So it's like the log is across that area and there's not much flow happening there.
Yeah.
So that you look at that and you say to yourself, oh, wow. Let me give you an example. I was at a house where that was the area of the inner magnificence, which is how you feel about yourself, how you present yourself in the world, your ability to take in new information. And it was just like filled with boxes and just a bunch of stuff. They couldn't get their car in there. And it was, so I started asking those kind of questions, and that's exactly how they were feeling.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So thank you so much, Nancy. We're excited to share this with our clients, and anyone who has questions, of course, reach out to Nancy on her email. And we so appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Okay. All right.
Bye. See you soon.
Bye-bye.